The moment you react too fast, you lose power. Most people never realize this. They think reacting instantly makes them look strong, confident, dominant, or emotionally honest. But in reality, fast emotional reactions usually reveal the exact opposite. They reveal insecurity, impulsiveness, emotional weakness, lack of self-control. And the frightening part is that emotionally intelligent people notice this immediately. The world constantly teaches people to react emotionally to everything. React to criticism. React to disrespect. React to rejection. React to opinions. React online. React instantly. But emotionally strong individuals move differently because they understand something most people never learn. Whoever controls your emotions controls you. And the easiest person to control is the person who reacts too fast. The moment someone can predict your emotional reactions, they gain psychological influence over you. They learn what angers you, what frustrates you, what hurts your ego, and what makes you lose composure. And once people understand your emotional triggers, manipulating your behavior becomes much easier than you think. This is why emotionally disciplined individuals never rush their reactions. They pause. They observe. They analyze situations carefully before responding because they understand that emotional reactions reveal information. Every impulsive response exposes your emotional state to the people around you. But calmness creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates psychological power. Most people react immediately because they are emotionally dependent on external situations. Their emotions change depending on how people treat them, whether they feel respected, whether they receive validation, or whether someone challenges their ego. Their internal state is constantly controlled by external events. But emotionally strong individuals build internal stability instead. They stop allowing temporary situations to control their emotional balance. That level of control changes everything socially. People instinctively respect individuals who remain calm under pressure because emotional control is rare. Almost everyone loses composure eventually. Almost everyone reacts impulsively when emotionally triggered. But the person who remains calm while everyone else becomes emotional immediately appears psychologically stronger. If you enjoy content about emotional discipline, psychological strength, human behavior, and silent confidence, subscribe to Psychology of Silence and leave a like on this video. The people who master emotional control understand the world very differently from everyone else. Most individuals completely underestimate how much damage emotional impulsiveness causes in their life. One uncontrolled reaction can destroy years of respect in seconds. One emotional message sent at the wrong moment can ruin relationships, opportunities, or trust permanently. One impulsive decision made during anger, insecurity, or frustration can completely change the direction of someone's life. But emotionally disciplined people understand that temporary emotions should never control permanent actions. This is why patience becomes such a powerful psychological weapon. Patience creates space between emotion and reaction. And inside that space, intelligence begins replacing impulse. The average person never develops this level of self-control because modern society constantly rewards emotional impulsiveness. People are encouraged to instantly express every feeling publicly, instantly defend themselves, instantly seek validation, instantly react emotionally to everything they dislike. But psychologically, this weakens emotional discipline over time because people slowly lose the ability to regulate themselves internally. Emotionally strong individuals move in the opposite direction. Instead of reacting immediately, they slow themselves down intentionally. They understand that emotions distort perception. Anger distorts judgment. Ego distorts logic. Insecurity distorts decision-making, and reacting too quickly while emotionally unstable often leads people into mistakes they regret later. This is why calm individuals often appear more intelligent socially. They are not controlled by emotional urgency. They do not feel pressure to immediately prove themselves, defend themselves, or emotionally dominate every interaction. Their calmness gives them clarity, while emotionally reactive individuals lose control of themselves internally. And clarity creates power. Because when your emotions are stable, you begin seeing situations objectively instead of emotionally. You notice manipulation faster. You notice hidden intentions faster. You notice who genuinely respects you and who only respects emotional access to you. Most people are too emotionally distracted to observe these things clearly because their reactions constantly consume their awareness. Emotionally reactive people are predictable, and predictable people are easy to influence. The moment someone knows exactly how you will react emotionally, they gain a certain level of control over your behavior. This is why emotionally disciplined individuals protect their reactions carefully. They understand that emotional unpredictability creates psychological strength. Calm people are difficult to manipulate because they do not instantly reveal what affects them internally. This is also why silence becomes so powerful during emotionally tense situations. Most people expect immediate emotional responses. They expect anger back, frustration back, defensiveness back. But when someone remains calm instead of reacting impulsively, it creates psychological discomfort in the other person because the emotional pattern they expected suddenly disappears. The moment life becomes difficult, emotionally reactive people begin exposing themselves automatically. Some become aggressive. Some become desperate for validation. Some over-explain themselves emotionally. Some lose patience immediately. Some become emotionally unstable because they never learned how to regulate themselves internally. But disciplined individuals remain centered even while uncomfortable emotions exist. And that emotional stability becomes visible to everyone around them whether they realize it or not. People instinctively trust emotional stability more than emotional chaos. This is why emotionally controlled individuals often become respected naturally over time. Not because they demand respect loudly, but because emotional consistency creates trust. Calm individuals feel grounded, predictable in the right way, stable under pressure. And stability always feels more powerful than impulsiveness because impulsive people eventually become controlled by their emotions. Many individuals mistakenly believe emotional control means suppressing emotions completely. But emotional strength is not emotional numbness. Emotionally disciplined people still feel anger, frustration, disappointment, insecurity, and pressure like everyone else. The difference is that they do not allow those emotions to immediately dictate their behavior. They understand that emotions are temporary experiences, not commands that must be obeyed instantly. This creates enormous social advantage because most human behavior is emotionally driven. The average person reacts based on feelings first and logic second. That is why manipulation works so well on emotionally reactive individuals. Fear manipulates them. Validation manipulates them. Rejection manipulates them. Ego manipulates them. But emotionally disciplined individuals create distance between emotional stimulation and action, making them much harder to psychologically influence. Over time, this emotional discipline begins affecting every area of life. Decision-making improves because emotions stop clouding judgment constantly. Relationships improve because impulsive reactions decrease. Mental clarity improves because emotional chaos no longer controls attention every day. Even confidence improves because internal stability creates a deeper sense of certainty that does not depend entirely on external approval. And perhaps the most powerful part of emotional control is that it protects peace. Most people destroy their own peace through impulsiveness. They react emotionally to everything around them. Every criticism becomes personal. Every disagreement becomes emotional. Every negative interaction affects their internal state. They carry emotional tension everywhere because they never learned how to separate themselves from temporary emotional situations. But emotionally disciplined people stop giving the outside world unlimited access to their mind. That changes their entire presence. They become calmer, less desperate, less reactive, less emotionally dependent, and far more focused. Because emotional control preserves mental energy while impulsiveness drains it constantly. Every unnecessary argument drains energy. Every emotional outburst drains clarity. Every impulsive reaction weakens self-control. Most people exhaust themselves emotionally every single day without understanding why. But disciplined individuals conserve emotional energy carefully because they know emotional stability is one of the most valuable forms of power a person can possess. This is also why emotionally strong people rarely rush important decisions. They understand that emotional urgency often creates mistakes. Fear creates rushed decisions. Ego creates rushed decisions. Anger creates rushed decisions. But patience creates perspective. And perspective allows people to see situations clearly instead of emotionally. The average person struggles with patience because modern life conditions people to seek instant emotional relief constantly. The moment discomfort appears, they immediately react, immediately distract themselves, immediately seek validation or stimulation. But emotionally disciplined individuals slowly train themselves to tolerate discomfort without losing control internally. And that ability creates resilience. A resilient person cannot be manipulated easily through pressure because pressure no longer controls their behavior automatically. And once someone develops that level of emotional resilience, their entire psychology begins changing. They stop living impulsively, stop depending emotionally on validation, stop allowing temporary emotions to control long-term decisions. Instead, they begin operating with awareness, patience, and discipline while emotionally reactive people continue exposing themselves through uncontrolled reactions. Because in the end, emotional strength is not about appearing powerful. It is about remaining in control of yourself when most people would lose control completely. And that level of self-control becomes increasingly rare the more emotionally chaotic the world becomes. Everywhere people look, they are encouraged to react emotionally before thinking clearly. Fast reactions are rewarded. Outrage spreads faster than patience. Emotional intensity spreads faster than calmness. But emotionally strong individuals understand that speed is not strength. In many situations, reacting slowly is actually a sign of intelligence because it shows that emotion is not controlling the mind automatically. Most people never stop long enough to question their own emotional patterns. They simply react, justify the reaction afterward, and repeat the cycle again the next day. Over time, this creates emotional habits that become deeply rooted inside their personality. Some people become permanently defensive. Others become permanently impatient. Others become emotionally dependent on validation or attention. And because they never developed awareness, they mistake these emotional patterns for normal behavior. But emotionally disciplined individuals observe themselves carefully. They notice what triggers anger. They notice what creates insecurity. They notice when ego begins taking control of their behavior. And instead of instantly obeying those emotions, they begin training themselves to remain calm despite what they feel internally. That process is uncomfortable at first because emotional discipline requires confronting yourself honestly. Silence becomes important here because silence forces awareness. The moment a person stops constantly reacting outwardly, they begin noticing what is happening inwardly. They notice how quickly emotion tries to take control. They notice how often the ego seeks validation. They notice how deeply fear influences behavior without people realizing it. Most individuals stay distracted constantly because distraction protects them from seeing these truths clearly. But emotionally disciplined people slowly become comfortable with observation instead of escape. And observation creates understanding. The more someone observes human behavior carefully, the more predictable emotional patterns become. Insecurity creates emotional defensiveness. Fear creates aggression. Weakness creates overcompensation. Desperation creates attention-seeking behavior. Once you begin recognizing these patterns repeatedly, you stop taking emotional reactions personally because you realize most people are fighting internal battles they cannot control. That awareness creates emotional detachment. Not coldness, not lack of empathy, but emotional clarity. The ability to remain calm without absorbing every emotional situation around you. Most people become emotionally consumed by environments because they never learned how to separate their internal state from external chaos. But emotionally strong individuals develop boundaries mentally. They stop allowing every opinion, every criticism, every negative interaction, and every emotional situation to enter their mind freely. And that boundary protects peace. Peace becomes incredibly valuable once a person understands how much emotional impulsiveness destroys mental clarity. The average person lives mentally overstimulated almost every day. Their attention constantly jumps between emotions, distractions, social pressure, comparison, insecurity, and external validation. Over time, this creates emotional exhaustion because the mind never fully rests. But emotionally disciplined individuals become selective with what they allow into their mind because they understand that protecting mental clarity is protecting power. This is why calm individuals often appear more focused than others. Their energy is not constantly scattered by emotional reactions. They are not wasting attention on every meaningless conflict or emotional distraction around them. Instead, they conserve focus intentionally. And focused people naturally become more disciplined because discipline requires sustained attention over time. Most people fail at discipline because emotions interrupt consistency constantly. They act based on how they feel instead of what they know they should do. Motivation disappears, and so does action. Pressure appears, and focus disappears. Criticism appears, and confidence disappears. Their emotional state controls their consistency entirely. But emotionally strong individuals understand that feelings change constantly, while discipline must remain stable regardless of emotion. That mindset separates emotionally mature people from emotionally reactive people completely. Emotionally reactive individuals seek comfort constantly. They avoid discomfort whenever possible because discomfort feels threatening internally. But emotionally disciplined people understand that discomfort is necessary for growth. Patience feels uncomfortable. Restraint feels uncomfortable. Silence feels uncomfortable. But those uncomfortable experiences slowly strengthen emotional endurance over time. And emotional endurance creates confidence that does not collapse easily. Most confidence people display publicly is fragile because it depends heavily on external circumstances. Compliments create confidence. Attention creates confidence. Success creates confidence. But the moment rejection, criticism, failure, or pressure appears, that confidence disappears because it was never internally stable to begin with. Emotionally strong individuals build confidence differently. Their confidence comes from knowing they can remain calm and controlled even during difficult situations. That type of confidence feels quiet. It does not need to announce itself constantly. It does not seek approval desperately. It does not panic under pressure. Because internally, it already feels grounded. This is why emotionally disciplined people often become harder to intimidate psychologically. Intimidation depends heavily on emotional reactions. Fear only controls someone who becomes emotionally consumed by it. Pressure only controls someone who loses emotional balance under stress. But calm individuals create mental distance from situations before reacting, allowing logic to remain stronger than impulse. And once logic becomes stronger than impulse, emotional freedom begins developing. That freedom changes relationships completely. Emotionally disciplined people stop chasing people who constantly disturb their peace. Stop arguing endlessly with emotionally immature individuals. Stop explaining themselves to people determined to misunderstand them. Instead, they become more intentional with their emotional energy because they understand that energy wasted on chaos is energy stolen from growth. Eventually, emotional discipline becomes visible without words. People can feel when someone controls themselves internally. They can feel emotional stability. They can feel patience. They can feel grounded energy. And in a world filled with impulsiveness, emotional chaos, and constant reactions, calmness becomes powerful simply because it is rare. That is why emotionally strong people never react fast. Because they understand that every reaction shapes their mind, their peace, and ultimately the direction of their entire life. The people who truly understand emotional discipline begin seeing reactions differently over time. They stop viewing reactions as harmless emotional moments and start recognizing them as reflections of internal control. Every impulsive reaction reveals how much influence the outside world still has over someone's mind. If a small opinion can ruin your peace, your emotions are still externally controlled. If criticism instantly changes your emotional state, your stability is still fragile. If disrespect immediately pulls anger out of you, your emotions are still being directed by other people instead of by your own awareness. This is why emotionally strong individuals become extremely careful with what they emotionally attach themselves to. They understand that attachment creates vulnerability when it lacks self-control. Many people become emotionally dependent on outcomes, validation, relationships, attention, or recognition. And the moment those things disappear, they emotionally collapse because their internal stability was built entirely on temporary external circumstances. But disciplined individuals slowly detach their emotional state from things they cannot fully control. That detachment creates calmness, not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because emotionally grounded people stop allowing every situation to define their internal state. They begin understanding that emotional reactions are temporary waves, not permanent truths. Anger passes. Fear passes. Insecurity passes. Frustration passes. But impulsive actions taken during those emotional moments can leave permanent consequences. Most people never develop enough patience to realize this. They feel emotion and immediately move, immediately speak, immediately react, immediately decide. And afterward, they wonder why their life feels emotionally chaotic. But emotionally disciplined people slow the process down intentionally. They create distance between feeling and action because they understand that the ability to pause is one of the greatest forms of psychological strength a person can develop. That pause allows awareness to enter the situation before impulse takes over completely. And awareness changes everything. Awareness allows people to recognize manipulation before reacting emotionally to it. Awareness allows people to notice when ego is controlling their behavior. Awareness allows people to separate temporary emotion from objective reality. Without awareness, emotions dominate behavior automatically. But with awareness, emotions become information instead of commands. This is why emotionally strong individuals often appear more mature than others regardless of age. Emotional maturity has very little to do with how old someone is. It has everything to do with emotional regulation. Some people grow older without ever learning how to control themselves internally. They remain impulsive, reactive, impatient, and emotionally unstable for their entire life. But disciplined individuals slowly strengthen emotional control through observation, patience, silence, and self-awareness. And over time, this emotional control creates enormous psychological stability. Stable individuals do not panic easily, do not seek validation desperately, do not emotionally collapse under pressure, do not react impulsively to every uncomfortable situation. Instead, they remain centered while processing situations calmly. That stability becomes incredibly powerful socially because emotionally unstable environments are everywhere now. Most people are overwhelmed mentally. Constant stimulation, endless comparison, social pressure, emotional exhaustion, and non-stop distractions slowly weaken emotional discipline over time. The average mind rarely experiences silence anymore, rarely experiences stillness, rarely experiences emotional clarity without interruption. But emotionally disciplined people intentionally create that clarity. They protect silence because silence strengthens awareness. They protect peace because peace strengthens focus. They protect emotional control because emotional control strengthens decision-making. And once someone understands how deeply emotional reactions affect every area of life, they begin taking self-control far more seriously. Because emotional reactions shape relationships, shape opportunities, shape reputation, shape mental health, shape confidence, shape focus. Most people underestimate how much emotional impulsiveness slowly destroys their own potential over time. One uncontrolled reaction may seem small in the moment, but repeated impulsiveness creates destructive patterns that slowly shape identity itself. An emotionally reactive person eventually becomes known for instability. An emotionally disciplined person eventually becomes known for reliability and calmness. And people naturally trust calmness more than chaos. This is why emotionally strong individuals rarely feel the need to prove themselves aggressively. They understand that true strength does not require constant performance. Weak individuals often seek dominance externally because internally they feel unstable. But grounded individuals move differently because their confidence is not built on controlling others emotionally. Their confidence comes from controlling themselves internally. That difference changes social interactions completely. Emotionally reactive individuals often enter conversations trying to win emotionally, trying to dominate, trying to defend their ego, trying to seek validation or approval. But emotionally disciplined individuals enter conversations with observation instead of emotional urgency. They listen more carefully, speak more intentionally, react more slowly, and because of this, they often understand people far better than emotionally impulsive individuals ever will. Listening becomes a hidden advantage. Most people are too focused on expressing themselves to truly observe others. But calm individuals notice details most people completely ignore. Tone changes, emotional tension, hidden insecurity, forced confidence, desperation for attention, fear hidden beneath arrogance. Human behavior reveals itself constantly to anyone patient enough to observe carefully. This is why emotionally strong people often become difficult to deceive. Emotional manipulation works best on reactive minds because reactive minds respond impulsively before analyzing situations clearly. But disciplined individuals slow emotional situations down internally before responding, making manipulation far less effective. And over time, this creates a different type of freedom psychologically. The freedom to remain calm while others panic. The freedom to remain patient while others become impulsive. The freedom to remain emotionally grounded while others lose themselves internally. That freedom cannot be bought externally because it is built through self-control. And self-control is built through discipline repeated consistently over time. Most people want peace without discipline, confidence without emotional control, respect without self-awareness. But emotionally strong individuals understand that inner stability must be built intentionally. It does not appear automatically. It develops slowly through observation, restraint, patience, and the willingness to remain calm even when emotions try to take control. And once someone truly develops that level of emotional discipline, their entire presence changes. Not because they become emotionless, but because emotions no longer control them automatically. At that point, life begins feeling different internally. Situations that once created emotional chaos no longer carry the same power. Criticism loses intensity. Pressure feels more manageable. Rejection stops feeling like personal destruction. And emotional triggers that once controlled behavior begin losing influence gradually because emotional discipline changes the relationship a person has with their own mind. Most people never experience this level of inner control because they spend their entire life reacting instead of observing. They become trapped inside emotional cycles without recognizing the pattern. Someone says something negative, and their mood changes instantly. Something goes wrong, and frustration immediately takes over. They feel ignored, and insecurity appears automatically. Their internal state constantly depends on what is happening around them instead of what is happening within them. But emotionally disciplined individuals slowly reverse this process. They stop allowing external situations to dictate internal stability. They begin understanding that real strength is not controlling the world around you. Real strength is controlling yourself while the world around you becomes unpredictable. That realization creates emotional independence. And emotional independence is one of the rarest forms of power a person can develop. Most people are emotionally dependent without realizing it. Dependent on approval. Dependent on attention. Dependent on recognition. Dependent on comfort. Their emotions constantly rise and fall according to external validation. But calm individuals stop needing constant reassurance from the outside world because they develop certainty internally instead. That certainty changes body language, changes presence, changes energy, changes decision-making. People can feel it immediately, even if they cannot explain it logically. There is something naturally powerful about a person who remains calm while everyone else reacts emotionally. Not because they are pretending to be strong, but because their emotions no longer control every decision they make. And in a world where most people react impulsively to everything, emotional control becomes deeply noticeable. This is why emotionally disciplined individuals often become more respected over time without chasing respect directly. Respect built on emotional stability feels genuine because people instinctively trust those who remain composed under pressure. Emotional consistency creates reliability. Reliability creates trust, and trust creates influence naturally. Meanwhile, emotionally reactive individuals often damage their own credibility without realizing it. The more unstable someone becomes emotionally, the harder it becomes for others to trust their judgment long-term. People may tolerate impulsiveness temporarily, but eventually emotional instability creates exhaustion in relationships, environments, and social interactions. That is why emotional discipline protects not only peace, but also reputation. One emotional reaction can change how people see someone completely. Years of respect can disappear in seconds through impulsive behavior. And the problem is that emotionally reactive people rarely notice how much damage they create while emotions are controlling them. In those moments, logic becomes weak and impulse becomes strong. But disciplined individuals train themselves to remain aware even during emotional pressure. And awareness under pressure is rare. Most people lose awareness completely the moment strong emotions appear. Anger narrows perception. Fear distorts judgment. Ego destroys patience. But emotionally grounded people create mental distance from their emotions before acting. That distance gives them the ability to think clearly while others become consumed internally. This is why emotionally strong people rarely rush conversations during tense moments. They understand that silence often protects clarity better than impulsive speech. The average person feels uncomfortable with silence because silence forces emotional awareness. It removes distraction. It exposes impatience. It exposes insecurity. That is why emotionally reactive individuals constantly feel pressure to speak, explain, defend, or emotionally release tension immediately. But calm individuals tolerate silence differently. They allow themselves time to process, time to observe, time to think clearly before responding. And that patience alone gives them enormous psychological advantage because most people are controlled by emotional urgency. They feel pressure to act instantly whenever emotions rise. But emotionally disciplined people understand that urgency is often emotional, not logical. And decisions made from emotional urgency usually create regret later. This becomes especially important during difficult situations. Pressure reveals emotional habits very quickly. Some people become emotionally unstable under stress. Others become aggressive. Others panic internally. But disciplined individuals slow themselves down intentionally during those moments because they understand that difficult situations require more awareness, not less. That mindset changes outcomes completely. The ability to remain calm while under emotional pressure allows people to make better decisions, protect relationships, maintain dignity, and preserve mental clarity even when life becomes uncomfortable. Most people underestimate how valuable this skill truly is because emotional impulsiveness has become normalized socially. But emotionally reactive behavior always carries consequences eventually. Over time, emotionally disciplined individuals begin realizing that silence is not passive at all. Silence is control. Silence is patience. Silence is emotional regulation. And perhaps most importantly, silence creates freedom from emotional slavery. Because a person controlled by every emotion is never truly free internally. They become prisoners of mood, impulse, validation, fear, insecurity, and pressure. But emotionally strong individuals gradually free themselves from those chains through awareness and discipline repeated consistently over time. That process is not easy. Remaining calm when emotions rise is difficult. Remaining patient during pressure is difficult. Remaining silent when ego wants to react is difficult. But difficult things build strength. And emotional strength is built in the moments where a person chooses awareness over impulse, patience over reaction, and control over emotional chaos. That is why emotionally strong people never react fast. Because they understand that the moment emotion controls behavior automatically, power disappears. And once someone truly understands this, they stop admiring emotional intensity and start admiring emotional control instead. They begin realizing that calmness under pressure is far more impressive than loud reactions. Anyone can lose control emotionally. Anyone can react impulsively when anger, fear, insecurity, or ego takes over. But remaining centered while emotions rise internally requires discipline most people never develop. That discipline changes the way a person experiences life completely. Instead of constantly feeling emotionally exhausted, they begin conserving energy carefully. Instead of allowing every situation to disturb their peace, they become selective with what deserves emotional attention. Instead of reacting automatically to people's behavior, they observe first. And the more they observe, the more clearly they begin understanding human nature itself. Most people are emotionally transparent without realizing it. Their reactions reveal everything. Their impatience reveals insecurity. Their defensiveness reveals ego. Their anger reveals lack of control. Their desperation for attention reveals emotional dependence. Human behavior constantly exposes internal weakness to anyone patient enough to observe carefully. But emotionally reactive individuals rarely notice this because they are too consumed by their own emotions to see clearly. This is why emotional discipline creates social intelligence naturally. The calmer someone becomes internally, the more clearly they can observe others externally. They stop getting emotionally lost inside situations and begin understanding the deeper psychological patterns behind human behavior. They recognize manipulation faster. They recognize insecurity faster. They recognize emotional instability faster because their own mind is no longer clouded constantly by impulsive reactions. And perhaps the most powerful part of emotional control is that it creates consistency. Emotionally reactive people are unstable because their behavior changes according to emotion constantly. One day they feel confident. The next day insecurity controls them. One moment they feel calm. The next moment anger takes over. Their identity shifts according to temporary emotional states. But emotionally disciplined individuals remain more stable because their decisions are guided by awareness instead of mood. That stability becomes a form of silent strength. People may not always understand it consciously, but they feel it. They feel when someone is emotionally grounded. They feel when someone does not desperately need validation. They feel when someone cannot be easily emotionally manipulated. And in a world filled with impulsive reactions, emotional stability immediately stands out. This is why emotionally strong individuals often become quieter over time. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they realize most reactions are unnecessary. Most arguments are emotional ego battles. Most emotional tension comes from people lacking self-control internally. And once someone sees these patterns clearly enough, they stop wasting energy trying to emotionally participate in every situation around them. Instead, they protect their peace, protect their focus, protect their emotional balance. Because they understand that emotional control affects everything. It affects relationships, it affects opportunities, it affects decision-making, it affects confidence, it affects reputation, it affects the entire direction of someone's life. One impulsive emotional reaction can destroy years of progress. One moment of lost control can create permanent consequences. But disciplined individuals remember this before they react. That pause becomes their advantage. While emotionally reactive people continue giving their emotions control over their behavior, emotionally strong individuals continue building internal stability quietly. They understand that true strength is not measured by how loudly someone reacts, but by how much control they maintain when emotions try to take over. And in the end, the people who master emotional control gain something far more valuable than temporary emotional satisfaction. They gain peace. The kind of peace that cannot be destroyed easily by opinions, pressure, rejection, or emotional chaos. The kind of peace built through discipline, patience, self-awareness, and control repeated consistently over time. Because emotional strength is not about never feeling emotions. It is about refusing to become controlled by them. If you made it this far, comment, controlled, below. I want to know who truly understands the difference between reacting emotionally and remaining powerful through self-control.